All right, the Dallas Cowboys make news even when they don't have an outbreak or a contract problem or really anything else. They had an exciting game on Sunday against the Seattle game. Now, the reason he was even in a position to throw the interception is because he ran away from pressure, avoided falling down. If he would have fallen down, the clock likely would have run out by the time the receivers got back from the end zone and they snapped the ball for what would have been like 4th and 28. But that issue of quarterback mobility came up during one of Jerry Jones' 2 radio appearances per week on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. And his comments created a little bit of a stir on the question of whether or not Jerry Jones was comparing Dak in an unfavorable way to other mobile quarterbacks. Let's listen to Jerry Jones from earlier today.
And obviously with their quarterback who's, I think, at the highest level right now because of his, frankly, as much as just his natural ability to make plays, his mobility. And this guy's very quick and elusive and can get in and out of situations with his feet and buy time. The quarterback we played Sunday is of that kind of nature. Has great ability to get in and out and then make the play. That play Dak made at the end of the game that got intercepted. Well, the results of Dak's ability that let him get that ball off was really great and outstanding. Well, these guys have that ability a lot. They are very quick-footed, and they have the unique ability to possibly take their eyes away from the field for a minute and then immediately focus back and see. Romo had that. And so they could turn his back on it and turn around and hand-eye and get it done quick. And so those are things that show up, and that's what's showing up with these guys. They're buying time with their feet. They're buying time with their instincts and their feet.
You know, when I saw the comments written, I thought there was no criticism of Dak Prescott. When I heard it, I feel a little bit differently now. There is a little bit of a backhand at Dak because he bought time with his feet, but he threw the ball into like 5 guys. It was the throw he shouldn't have made. In hindsight, what he should have done, and maybe what Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson, 2 of the quarterbacks that Jerry Jones was talking about, would have done, get out of bounds, right? He had the opportunity to gain 6, 7, 8 yards, make it a shorter throw to the end zone. You got one play after that. There would have been time left on the clock. Instead of reacting to that, oh, crap moment, I almost fell down and the clock would have run out by just unloading the ball into the end zone when he shouldn't have. Maybe there's an argument to be made, a little sliver of an argument, that what he's saying is, yes, Dak has the mobility, but what he doesn't have, and that Wilson, Mahomes, and Romo do have, is the opportunity to make a good decision after they use their mobility to extend the play.
Mike, I've gotten 3 phone calls today from my former coworker and our good friend Clarence Hill, who kind of started this whole stir and knows Jerry as well as anyone knows him. And he reads it as Jerry's criticism of him. And we should say that the question was, do you feel like there's a big gap between you and the Kansas City Chiefs after watching the Chiefs last night? There was no mention of Patrick Mahomes. There was no mention of Russell Wilson. Jerry Jones brought those up on his own. The problem with this is we all have to interpret Jerry. We call them Jerryisms, and you have to interpret what he says. Sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. But the problem is that the reporters are not getting Jerry after games. They're not getting him in the week after practice. In a normal season, there would be a follow-up. You would get to at least, at minimum, ask Jerry after next week's game, if not this week, during the week, what he meant by that comment. Was it criticism of Dak Prescott? And he likely is going to say, no, it was not. It was not intended that way. But at least you would have the opportunity to get to him and ask him that question. And no telling what he says, as we know Jerry could say anything once you get him. So that's been a big problem, I think, with this, is no one's going to follow up in this and say, what did you really mean by this? Was it meant as a criticism of Dak Prescott. And we don't know. I mean, we're just trying to interpret what Jerry said, and there may be a little bit in there. There may not be. Maybe it's a contract thing. We know that he's playing under the franchise tag, and they're going to have to get back to the negotiating table after the season.
Again, reading the words that were posted in an item at 105.3 The Fan, the same words we just heard, it gave me a different feeling. Hearing it, a different vibe. And here's the reality. He's on 105.3 The Fan twice per week, but he's on different shows between Tuesday and Friday. The Friday hosts may feel no compulsion to come back to that point. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And by the time the Tuesday hosts have him again, there will have been another game played. There'll be other things to talk about. You got a lot of business you want to take care of with Jerry Jones. And because he gives you really long answers, you go into the interview loaded up with questions, and maybe you get to ask 5 of them. So as a practical matter, this may fall through the cracks. And look, also, would it be a surprise if, because of the blowback, somebody from the Cowboys says to their flagship station, don't revisit that issue with Dak and mobility and Mahomes and Wilson. Let's just let that one die.
No,
that wouldn't
they would
surprise
never
me either.
do that.
I detect a small amount of sarcasm coming from Charean on that. Anyway, you know what? Here's what I have to do. I'm sitting here thinking, crap, I spent a half hour writing a story about this saying he wasn't criticizing Dak. Now I got to go back and write a story tonight, add this video. Hello to anyone who's reading the story and clicked on the video. If you made it this far, thank you. And explain, you know what? Maybe he was. And maybe there is a broader play going on here as it relates to the fact that if they apply the franchise tag to him next year, it's $37.68 million, and maybe they won't. I had someone tell me that back in June. Don't assume they're going to apply the franchise tag next year. I said, baloney. They applied the highest possible level this year. Why would they not apply it next year? They're just going to let him walk away as a free agent? Who are they going to replace him with? I don't think that's going to happen. So either way, he's still going to be the quarterback. And the reality is guys who can extend the play with their legs, Charean, and have the presence of mind to make a great decision with the football after they've extended the play with their legs, there aren't many guys who can do that.
No, they're not. And there are not many Dak Prescotts. I mean, Jerry remembers what happened between Troy Aikman and Tony Romo, and it was not pretty. And he finally found Tony Romo, and now they've made this seamless transition into Dak Prescott. So they're not going to let Dak Prescott get away. They're going to keep him, and they'll end up paying him, and they're going to end up paying him way more than they wanted to pay him and way more than they should have paid him if they had signed him when they should have signed him, which was a long, long, long time ago. But they'll keep Dak Prescott. He'll be their quarterback. And on the play that Dak made, he was asked about it after the game, and he said an interception never entered his mind. Like, he was throwing that ball to try to get a completion, obviously a touchdown, but he thought the worst case scenario was an incompletion. But as you saw in the video, I mean, there's Seahawks everywhere. They played it like a Hail Mary, as they should, and ended up getting the pick and ended the game.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.